They try to destroy us. But our child will unite two worlds. Have you ever wondered if some connections run deeper than memory itself? What if love could be encoded into your DNA, waiting, hidden, for the right moment to awaken? Before we dive into this emotionally charged sci-fi romance, take a second to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Do you believe some bonds are too powerful to be forgotten, even across time, space, and species? Now, imagine this. A human linguist, alone on Saturn's frozen moon, intercepts a lullaby not meant for human ears, a song that unlocks something ancient within her. Soon after, an alien man crash lands outside her station. He knows her. Claims they've met before. But the memory doesn't belong to either of them, not yet. What begins as curiosity becomes the rediscovery of a love long erased by two civilizations. A buried truth. A child that could change the fate of both species. Stay with this story to the end, and if it moves you, tell us. Would you trust a feeling strong enough to rewrite your future? The silence on Titan wasn't truly silence. It whispered, through static, through snow-laced wind that scraped against the metal walls of listening station EOS 7, through the lonely hum of machines orbiting Saturn's icy moon. Dr. Elia Voss had long grown used to it. Or at least, she thought she had. Until the song. She caught it between transmissions, hidden beneath solar radiation, tucked deep into a layer of signal debris that shouldn't have existed. A ripple in the cosmic sea. Not random. Patterned. Delicate. Purposeful. She replayed it for the third time, breath held. A voice, layered and distant, sang in a tongue she didn't recognize, but it wasn't random sound. It had cadence. Rhyme. Something almost lullaby-like. Hauntingly gentle, achingly sad. It struck her somewhere she couldn't explain. Like déjà vu turned inside out. Elia's pale fingers trembled over the console. She adjusted the spectral filters, cleaned the audio, and layered it with a translation algorithm. Nothing. No match in the intergalactic lexicon. She whispered to herself. Then where are you from? Behind her, the station groaned. Outside, wind lashed against reinforced glass. Titan's atmosphere swirled with methane and longing. Elia leaned back in her chair, rubbing the ache between her eyes. A week ago, she'd considered requesting early return to Earth. Too many days alone. Too many dreams that felt not quite hers. But now the silence had answered her. And it didn't come alone. That night, she couldn't sleep. The melody played on loop in her thoughts, threading through her dreams like silk. She stood in a forest made of crystal trees, a silver sky arching overhead. Somewhere ahead, someone sang the lullaby. She followed the sound until a shape appeared, tall, lithe, not human. He turned as if sensing her, his eyes catching the starlight. She knew him. She knew him. But why? She woke with a gasp. By morning, the storm outside had intensified. The automated warning chime pulsed red. Proximity alert. Elia rushed to the comms terminal, her breath catching. No known vessels were scheduled near Titan. None had permission. The radar blinked. Something was entering the atmosphere fast, too fast. Impact trajectory, she muttered, fingers dancing over the screen. West quadrant. Crater ridge. She hesitated only a moment before suiting up and preparing the rover. Protocol be damned. The crash site was a shallow basin carved into ice and rock, steam still rising from the embedded ship. It wasn't human. The curves were too organic, the metal too alive, almost grown instead of built. The cockpit had fractured open. Elia approached carefully, heart hammering, unsure whether to expect weapons or wreckage. And then she saw him. Slumped against the console, blood, no, light, leaking from a wound on his temple. His skin shimmered faintly, hues of violet and silver flickering beneath translucent flesh. His breathing was shallow but steady. He opened his eyes. And she froze. They were the same eyes from her dream. Iridescent, impossibly deep. He looked at her as if seeing a ghost. A lost song. You, he whispered, voice raspy and foreign. Elia knelt beside him, stunned. You're injured, she said instinctively. His gaze softened. A tear slid down his cheek, not of water, but something bioluminescent. You found me again, he said. Then his body collapsed into unconsciousness. And Elia, alone on a frozen alien moon, suddenly wasn't alone at all. He slept for 18 hours. In that time, Elia ran every scan she could without violating ethical protocols, not that the standard ones had much to say about housing an alien male in a backroom medpod of a Saturn moon outpost. Kalen, as his name appeared when she accessed the ship's faint internal logs, was genetically unlike anything she'd studied. And yet, impossibly close. Too close. His DNA was made of codes that mirrored human sequences, but enhanced, expanded like an echo of Earth rewritten in another key. She watched him through the glass, hands trembling over the console. The lullaby still looped in the background, and her thoughts felt like knots pulling tighter with each note. It wasn't just sound. It was memory. It had unlocked something inside her. When he woke, it was sudden, eyes opening in one fluid motion. He sat upright, breathing steady, unafraid. Elia stood. You're on Titan. Listening station EOS 7. I'm Dr. Elia Voss. He studied her face with unsettling intensity. Elia. Her chest tightened. You know me. He nodded slowly. I don't know how. But yes. I've known you, before. That's impossible. Not if memory can be rewritten. She stepped back, shaken. Who are you? Kalen looked at his own hands as if he weren't sure they belonged to him. I'm of the Nirei. Or I was. A long time ago. You're not listed in any galactic databases. He tilted his head. We don't advertise. A flicker of a smile, then gone. Elia swallowed. Your DNA, how is it so close to human? He didn't answer at first. Instead, he stood, and his movement was graceful, like fluid held in muscle. You've heard the song, he said. She nodded slowly. It was encoded in a radiation anomaly. That wasn't a song. His gaze turned grave. It was a key. He reached for her hand without asking. As soon as his skin touched hers, something slammed through her, an image, a sound, a feeling like wind beneath the red sky. She gasped, stumbling. He caught her gently. I saw, she whispered. A child. A city in the clouds. Your hand in mine. Yes, he said softly. They buried it. But not deep enough. Later, back in the research lab, they sat across from one another, strangers, and something more. Elia accessed the DNA scan and overlaid it with her own profile. The screen pulsed in green, 93.4% mitochondrial synchrony. Impossible. These results don't make sense, she whispered. Kalen's expression was unreadable. They make perfect sense. To someone who remembers. But I don't. You will. He leaned in. Elia, we didn't meet for the first time today. We were part of something, an alliance, a bond. They tested emotional imprinting between paired species. You and I, we were bonded. Her breath hitched. You're saying we were lovers? His voice dropped. We were something beyond that. Elia stood, pacing. Even if this is true, why were our memories erased? Why is none of this in any Earth or Galactic record? Kalen's eyes darkened. Because the project failed. And failure scares governments more than truth. That night, alone in her room, Elia touched her forehead where the dream memory had struck her hardest. She played the lullaby again, but this time, she sang with it. Her voice matched the alien words instinctively. From the other room, Kalen heard and wept. Not from sorrow, but because he remembered the night they had sung it together, on a world now lost to time. The next morning, the air between them was changed. Denser. Charged. Neither Elia nor Kalen spoke of the lullaby, or of the memory they'd touched the night before. They didn't need to. Silence now held its own kind of language between them, a language of glances that lingered too long, hands that brushed accidentally, and questions that trembled on the edge of the tongue. In the lab, Elia stared at their genetic overlays for the 100th time. This isn't coincidence, she murmured. Our compatibility, the dreams, the memories coming back. It's as if something in our biology wants us to remember. Like our bodies are refusing to forget. Kalen stood nearby, quiet, watchful. Because they were never supposed to. We were designed to find each other again. She turned toward him. Who did this to us? He exhaled slowly. The Nirei Sovereign Assembly. And Earth's Interstellar Diplomatic Directorate. 52 years ago. But I'm only 35. His eyes locked with hers. So was I. The silence crackled like broken glass underfoot. Elia's voice dropped. That's not possible. Kalen stepped forward. We were part of the first interspecies pairing program. Created to bridge cultural gaps not just intellectually, but emotionally. You were assigned to me. Or I was to you. They mapped our genetics, fused empathy markers, synchronized our hormone cycles. We weren't just ambassadors, Elia. She whispered, we were test subjects. And more, he said, softer. We fell in love. On our own terms. That wasn't part of their design. So when the program collapsed, they erased it. They didn't just wipe files. They wiped us. Her hands trembled. And now it's coming back. Kalen nodded. The song. The memories. The dreams. All triggers encoded into our cells. Waiting for the right convergence. Why now? He didn't answer. Instead, he reached for her hand, tentative this time. May I? She hesitated. And then she took his hand. A wave of warmth surged through her. Not just contact, but recognition. The moment their fingers linked, her mind lit up with fractured images, a balcony under violet skies, laughter, a whispered promise, his head bowed against her shoulder. The scent of rain on alien stone. Her knees buckled. Kalen caught her. Elia. I saw us, she gasped. Together. Not just as diplomats. As lovers. Partners. I saw your face looking at me like I was your entire world. You were, he said simply. And then he kissed her. It wasn't a kiss of passion but of memory. A seal, broken open. His lips were warm, familiar. Her body responded before her thoughts caught up, like it had waited decades to be held again. When they parted, Elia's eyes brimmed with tears. "I don't know how to feel." "You don't have to know," Kalen whispered. "Just let yourself feel it." That night, they lay together not in lust, but in silent gravity. Kalen's skin shimmered faintly in the dark, like starlight captured under glass. Elia's head rested on his chest, and she listened to the slow rhythm of a heart that didn't belong to her world, but somehow still beat in time with hers. "I've always believed emotions could be data," she whispered, measured, analyzed, explained. Kalen smiled faintly. "And now? I think love is the only data point they couldn't erase." He exhaled, threading his fingers through hers. "Then maybe it's time we made them remember." In the morning, they found the file buried deep in the alien ship's black box. Project Dovetail, classified, Sovereign Echo. Subject pair, Voss/Kalen. Emotional bonding, 98% synchronization. Hybrid viability, high. Order, data compromised. Subjects to be sterilized, memories scrubbed. Contingency protocol, if reactivated, monitor for hybridization potential. Elia stared at the word hybrid and her hands flew to her abdomen. Kalen's eyes widened. "Elia. I don't know," she breathed. "But I've been dizzy. Warm. Since we touched. Since we remembered." He didn't speak. He just stepped forward, slowly, reverently, and placed his hand over her stomach. The air between them thickened, pulsed. The ship's lights flickered. A tremor passed through both of them. And in that instant, they knew. The storm outside was nothing compared to the one that now churned inside listening station EOS 7. Elias sat still, wrapped in a thermal blanket but feeling none of its warmth. Kalen paced nearby, silent and seething, the green-blue glow of alien code dancing across the holographic screen. They had both read the file again, then again. Project Dovetail. Sterilization. Erasure. Contingency protocols for reactivation. They hadn't just been erased. They'd been feared. "Elia," Kalen said, finally breaking the silence, "they saw us as a threat. Our bond. Our potential to reproduce. The fact that we could bridge the divide terrified them. They didn't just end the program," she whispered. "They ended us." But something in her had refused to stay buried. The nausea. The heat in her body. The sense of doubling, as if something inside her had begun humming with its own tiny, unfamiliar rhythm. "Do you really think I could be pregnant?" she asked, her voice small. Kalen stepped closer, gently touching her cheek. "I know you could be. That was always part of their plan. Until we turned it into something they couldn't control." Suddenly, the station's lights flashed crimson. "Alert! Unauthorized vessel entering atmosphere." Elia leapt to the console. "No Earth ships are scheduled. It's not one of ours." Kalen was already pulling up the security feed. A sleek, gunmetal black vessel tore through the sky, its markings unmistakable. "It's Nirei. Sovereign military." He turned to her, eyes sharp. "They've found me." "Us?" "How?" she asked, pulse racing. "The transmission. The song. It was never just a key, it was a beacon. They knew one of us might eventually trigger it." Elia swallowed hard. "And they're coming to put the ghost back in the grave." "No," Kalen said, already moving toward the landing pad control system. "They're coming to erase you. Us. Again." She grabbed his arm. "Then we run." He nodded. There's an escape pod buried under the hangar. It's old, but it's still functional. How do you know that? A bitter smile. Because I put it there, in another life. The snowstorm had worsened, slicing through the dark like static from another world. Alia's fingers were numb by the time she and Kalen reached the hangar, her breath coming in clouds. Kalen keyed open a buried panel beneath the floor, revealing an old vessel shaped like a curled shell. Atmosphere capable. Shielded from scans. Programmed for only 2 biometric keys. Mine and, he hesitated. And mine, Elia finished. He nodded. The moment their hands touched the pod's interface, it pulsed alive. Recognition. Authorization. Like the machine remembered them, even if the world didn't. They climbed in, strapped themselves down. Kalen initiated launch. As the pod shook and roared to life, the station behind them exploded in flame missiles tearing through the dome, engulfing everything in fire and forgotten names. Elia didn't look back. They broke Titan's atmosphere in silence, veering toward the outer fringe of Saturn's orbit. Kalen had plotted a course toward a rogue planetary body. No settlements, no satellites, just ocean, and wind and sky. It was where their story had once begun. Where are we going? Elia asked, clutching her seat belt as the pod banked hard. To the place where we were bonded, Kalen said. The Forgotten World. Earth. I left a failsafe there, hidden in the ruins. Medical archives. Genetic data. If you are carrying our child, it's the only place we'll find the answers. She touched her stomach, breath unsteady. And if I'm not? He turned to her. Then we fight anyway. Because they tried to erase something beautiful. And I'm not letting them do it again. Hours later, they descended through thick golden clouds onto us. The planet was as Kalen remembered, abandoned, overgrown with flowering vines that pulsed with bioluminescence. Old Nirei and human structures crumbled into the wild. No lights. No signals. Just the quiet breath of a world left behind. Elia stepped out of the pod into the warm, sweet-scented air and gasped. This place. I've seen it. In your dreams, Kalen said. She looked at him, realization dawning. No. Our dreams. Shared memory. They walked in silence through the ruins until Kalen led her to a stone plinth buried in moss. He placed his palm on the surface. A light bloomed beneath the stone. The air shimmered. A hidden lab activated. Inside, Elia ran her blood through the ancient Nirei systems. The machine clicked, hummed, and scanned. She watched the screen, heart frozen in her chest. Genetic synchrony detected. Hybridization sequence initiated. Kalen stepped behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. I'm pregnant, she whispered. He nodded, forward against her shoulder. With the first child of a new era. Tears welled in her eyes. They'll come for us. Yes, Kalen said. But this time, we won't be alone. He pressed a button on the console transmitting the confirmation code embedded in the data packet of Project Dovetail. Across deep space, old agents, rogue scientists, and lost lovers of the erased program would see it. The past was no longer forgotten. It was calling itself home. The child dreamed before she had eyes. She dreamed of skies with 2 moons, of warmth cradled in crimson light, of her mother's heartbeat syncopating with strange stars. Elliot didn't understand how she knew this, only that every time she placed her hand over her lower abdomen, she felt it, not just life, but memory. Ancient. Familiar. Watching her from the inside out. The days on Earth were golden and slow. Kalen rebuilt the shielding dome over the lab while Elia monitored her vitals, watching her body shift into something new. The nausea was gone now, replaced by a curious stillness. As if the child was listening. Waiting. Kalen entered the lab mid-morning, data pad in hand. "You're adjusting faster than expected," he said, sliding beside her. "Nirei pregnancies normally require intensive atmospheric control, but your readings are steady. Almost too steady." Elia raised an eyebrow. "You worried about me?" "I'm in awe." She smiled softly, then gestured to the flickering console. "Look at this." The monitor displayed biopsychic activity waves of energy normally dormant in developing embryos. "She's already broadcasting," Elia whispered. Kalen blinked. "That's not possible." "She's reaching out. Connecting to the systems in the lab, responding to language. To touch. To us." He stared at the data, then back at Elia. "She remembers." Elia nodded slowly. "She's the first being born with both of our memory codes. Not just a child. A vessel. A bridge." Kalen knelt beside her, one hand on her knee, the other gently splayed across her belly. "You're not just a miracle," he murmured. "You're a message." That night, the air grew colder. Elia stirred awake before the alarm triggered. Something was wrong. Kalen burst into the sleeping chamber a second later, his voice grim. "Two ships entered orbit. One Nirei. One Earth Alliance." Elia's blood went cold. "They found us. They're not firing. Yet. But they've deployed landing teams. 2 squads. Armed." She stood, hand pressed protectively over her abdomen. "We're out of time." Kalen helped her into her boots. "There's one option left. The temple core. You said it was sealed. I said it was buried." The temple core had once been the epicenter of Project Dovetail before the program was scrubbed from history. Deep underground, beneath roots, and stone and failure, it still hummed. Kalen led her through tunnels choked with glowing moss. As they entered the ancient chamber, dormant lights flickered to life, recognizing their genetic signatures. Elia gasped. The chamber was circular, encased in crystalline panels that pulsed with old memories. On the central pedestal sat a sleeping Nodan AI, ancient and forgotten. Kalen touched the interface. "Core unit, identify." "Welcome, Kalenris." "Welcome, Elia Voss." "Project Dovetail, reactivated." "Status, biological integration confirmed." "Hybridization successful." "Would you like to initiate preservation broadcast?" Elia looked at him. "What's that?" "A deep spectrum data transmission. Encoded in gravitational waves. It can't be blocked. It can't be stopped. It tells the galaxy, we lived. We crossed species. We loved." Elia's throat tightened. "Do it." Kalen pressed his hand against the crystal. The chamber began to pulse, a low, beautiful resonance filling the air, almost musical. Familiar. It was the lullaby. The same song that had awakened her, wrapped around Saturn's rings like a whispered prayer. Except now, it carried a second voice. Not Elia's. Not Kalen's. But the child's. Outside, as the squads advanced toward the temple, the lullaby reached them. First as vibration. Then as memory. A Nirei soldier stumbled, clutching his head. I remember this. A woman. A child I never met." An Earth officer froze, tears sliding down his cheek. "Why do I know that name?" "Elia." Across both forces, weapons fell. Soldiers turned to each other, no longer enemies, but fragments of a truth buried in every cell, every ancestor who had once touched the stars. Inside the temple, Elia felt her knees buckle. Kalen caught her, lowering her to the stone floor. "It's time," she gasped. His eyes widened. "Now." She smiled through gritted teeth. "You said she was ahead of schedule?" Outside the crystal chamber, footsteps approached, but not with rage. Not with fear. With awe. The doors opened. Leaders from both sides stepped in, stunned silent by the glow in the air, the music in their bones. And then, the cry. A single, fierce cry that silenced the galaxy for one breathless moment. Kalen cradled the newborn in trembling arms, her skin pale violet, her eyes already open deep pools of violet and blue, ancient and newborn all at once. Elia lay back, exhausted, joyful. "She's here." Kalen leaned down, whispering to the baby, "You remembered, didn't you? They tried to erase the memories. They buried the truth. But love has a way of remembering itself." From a forgotten lullaby drifting through the stars, to a child born of two worlds, this was never just a story about romance. It's a reminder that some things, once found, will never allow themselves to be lost again. If this story moved you, share your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe some bonds are powerful enough to defy time, distance, and even species? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who believes love can be bigger than any galaxy. I'll see you in the next journey, where the heart and the stars always find a way to meet again.